Hey guys, my name is John Singleton. I am head coach of the Progrm. I'm here in Barcelona in Studio CrossFit. Now, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and we will keep bringing you more and more content on how you can improve your CrossFit abilities. I'm very lucky to be joined by Reka Morgan today. And in this video, we're going to be looking at the overhead squat. We're going to be looking at some points of performance, how you can improve it, and how you can improve your CrossFit and your overhead squat. So, obviously for the overhead squat. Now, I say obviously, but actually there's a few things you can do the overhead squat with. Today we're going to be looking at the barbell, arguably the easiest. Obviously there's kettlebells, dumbbells, plates, lots of variants we can use for this. But it's important that we start with the barbell. Now, the reason it's called the overhead squat is because we have an object overhead. So Reka's just going to take the barbell, place it overhead. Good. So now, as you can see, so Reka took the barbell from the front rack. You have various options for getting the barbell overhead. You can take it from the front rack, from the back rack, you can power jerk it, split jerk it. However, at this weight, just taking it from the front rack and pressing up is the easiest option. Now, the first thing we want to do is notice the position. So we need to create a solid base for this barbell. So when I press down, we want it to be strong. We actually want the head to be slightly further forward and the bar to be slightly further back. This gives us a good platform in order to rest and just relax down. Now, when I say this, what we're not doing is taking things to the extreme. We're not taking the barbell too far back. We're not taking the head too far forward. However, we want to be in a solid position because eventually the athlete's going to have a relative amount of load overhead, and it's important that's secured by a solid base. Obviously, if my elbows are bent, that makes it harder. Having that straight transference with a straight elbow is important. And the wrist position is also important as well. I want to be holding the barbell in this line of the hand rather than letting it fall back into the fingertips. So if we just have a look at this, so Reka's just going to take it actually on the fingertips and take it overhead. So you'll see what that starts to look like. So just let it, so right now she's in relatively good position, but if she lets it fall back into the fingertips, you can see what starts to happen to the wrists. It makes it a bit more unstable. So barbell in a solid position, barbell too far back in the hands, and you guys can see that difference there. The elbows are straight, just bend the elbows slightly. So again, this would be extremely hard to manage a load overhead, and so we keep the elbows straight. Now, the wider the hands, the easier it is to do the overhead squats because of flexibility. The narrower the hands, the harder it is to do due to the flexibility. So Reka's just going to relax and put that barbell back in the rack. So this is a key thing. If you're a very mobile athlete, you can actually take the barbell quite narrow, even from that clean grip. If you're not as mobile, taking the hands wider will allow you to get that range of motion. The advantage of being closer is that you actually have a bit more stability. What I mean by that is when you're wider, the hand's further away, or the angle of the arm makes the shoulder more likely to rotate and move. When you're closer, you have less of that, so the shoulder's in a more stable position. Okay, so that's the wrist position, the relative bar position over the body. We're just going to look at one more thing, which is the shoulder position. So Reka's just going to take that bar overhead. Now you'll actually see that Reka's in a nice position here. And again, this is the way that we coach, we use. This is from more of the Chinese methodology. You'll hear sometimes that the armpits tend to be forward. That is not the way that we coach. We actually coach with a slight internal rotation of the shoulder. So as Reka's standing here, we have what we call this internal rotation, meaning that the elbow crease is slightly pointing, well, not forward, but a slight angle, rather than being all the way rotated back. We don't want this full rotation. We actually want a slight internal rotation of the shoulder. And just relax. And we put the bar back. Now, when I say internal rotation of the shoulder, that's exactly what I mean. I don't mean that we have this anterior displacement. That is a very vulnerable position for the shoulder, and you'll see in lots of sports, like throwing sports especially, where if the shoulder's anteriorly, is moved anteriorly, it makes it more vulnerable. Actually, what we're doing is just having a slight rotation, not this movement forward. So that's just an important point to note. So that's the setup in terms of where the barbell is going to be. Next, one thing that becomes important is that we don't alter that position as we go down. So Reika takes the barbell overhead. Now, if Reika would start going down, exactly, so we start going down and then she comes back up. So we're just going to do these partial reps first. But if Reika now were to take her torso forward, exactly, you start to see what happens on the shoulder. We start to take more pressure on the shoulder, which is not what we want. The bar comes back and back up and stand up. So the torso going down vertically, just like all squatting movements, is crucial. Just in this position, if Reika leans forward, just lean forward, look at what happens to the shoulders. And she comes back to neutral or vertical torso, we're in a good position. She leans forward, we expose the shoulders. This is not what we want and not a good position. So one of the crucial things is that we keep the torso vertical. Okay, and relax. And again, with these principles, especially with the front squat and the overhead squat, the weight distribution becomes very important. So if Reika squats down, just into the bottom position, we want to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed on the foot, more towards the front especially. So what I should see here, so if Reika moves her weight back to her heels, we can start to see that a gap starts to occur. This is not what we want. If Reika moves too far forward to the front, we start to see that the heel comes up. This is not what I want. I want the full foot on the floor with the weight slightly forward. The reason being that this is a quad dominant movement, and therefore as you do it, we will be engaging the quads more and the weight will be slightly further forward. However, we have full contact. Okay. So now what we do is we start to apply all these principles together. We have a good position overhead, meaning my shoulder is slightly internally rotated, my elbow is straight, and the bar is in a good position in my hand. That creates a solid, what we will call rack position, overhead position. The torso is going to travel vertically, and I'm going to have good weight distribution of my foot. Also, as I'm traveling down, it's impossible for me to flex my hip and not have my upper body move forward unless I flex my knees at the same time. So this engagement of the hip and the knee happening together is very important, because if I don't engage the two at the same time, I'm either going to lean back because my knees are flexing, not my hips, or I'm going to lean forward because my hips are flexing, not my knees. So the engagement and timing of the hip-knee flexion becomes important here as well. So Reika's just going to take the barbell overhead, and she's going to do just 5 partial reps. The reason we do 5 partial reps is just because it's easier to control as she's doing the movement. She gets comfortable with the bar overhead, she gets comfortable with the weight, and gets comfortable with the weight distribution in the foot. Now, she's now just going to take that down into 5 full reps. All the same principles apply. We try to fight for the upright torso. We have the weight distribution through the foot, and also the barbell is comfortable overhead. Okay, and relax. Now, one of the biggest factors in the overhead squat, just like other squatting movements, is that if I don't have very good ankle mobility, what will happen is when I start to go lower and I start to come to the end of my ankle mobility, what will happen, my torso will fall forward so my hips can get that depth, and obviously I've lost the optimal position. So for those athletes, wearing weightlifting shoes or elevating the heel slightly can help a lot, because it allows us to achieve that correct position. So, we hope that the video helped. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and we will get back to you. Thanks for watching.